When life gets crazy busy, and when doesn't it? Walmart helps you keep it all together, now with a little help from Instacart. If you need your groceries now-ish, but your options for going to Walmart are later-ish or never-ish, you can get everything you need delivered through Instacart right to your door in as fast as an hour. Skip the shop and savor more of your crazy busy life with Walmart and Instacart. Visit instacart.com to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Additional terms apply.
When you save on auto insurance for driving safe with USAA Safe Pilot, you'll feel like a big deal, even in a traffic jam. Save up to 30% with USAA Safe Pilot. Restrictions apply.
Chad's tracking down Tim Fitzgerald for us right now. We'll get to that in just a second. It has been an insane last couple of days. And I know there's a lot of like rumors and weird stuff happening, but I think, Tommy, it's because there's so many different, pieces happening all at once. What we have been essentially waiting for so long with the Pac-12 and this media deal finally comes to fruition, and Colorado leaves, and now the Pac-12 has to present its proposal, and it's not very good, which is what we suspected all along. And now teams and schools have some really difficult decisions to make. For the Big 12, we think that it still pertains to the Four Corner schools. And then there's also now Oregon with some rumblings of doing things, perhaps even up to 4 others. The Big 10 reportedly coming calling. So let's get into all of it. Let's bring in our K-State insider, our conference realignment insider of sorts this summer, Tim Fitzgerald.
He's got all the insight on what you want to know and maybe some of what you don't want to know. Here's K-State insider Tim Fitzgerald.
All right, Fitz. This is sort of what we've been waiting for. Whether or not, Colorado was the linchpin or not, the Buffaloes are back. That's happened since the last time we talked. And now the bad media deal, which we suspected was, all that the Pac-12 brass had to offer is in play. The Four Corner schools are having decisions to make. Oregon and Washington and maybe even Cal and Stanford now have decisions to make. This thing has gone, like nuclear on the Pac-12 here in about the last 72 hours.
Yeah, it's exactly what we've been predicting would happen once they saw that there wasn't really a media deal. What a lot of us have been saying since the start, the only thing that we've been wrong about is understanding how inept the Pac-12 leadership was to use delay tactics and literally lie to their own fans and their own conference members. So this was kind of inevitable. What I find interesting, though, is the sudden increased interest in Pac-12 teams from the Big Ten to extend to 4, which is what Dan Wetzel is reporting. They're going to take that entire coastal area with Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford. And I think that's just such a blessing for Cal because literally no one wants them other than their endowment and their big size and their influence, which is an important factor to the Big Ten. But the Four Corners to the Big 12 has been predictable from the start. It has been exactly how we thought this would go, and it's just taken longer to get there because of the delaying tactics of the Pac leadership.
Fitz, I am a big fan of just perusing different message boards, and it's been a fun time going through and looking at all these different schools and their message boards and their fans and people saying that they're connected and they're hearing from sources and they're doing all this. And I know like 99% of it is conjecture, but I feel like the overall common theme is that, and what I've heard different reporting from Dennis Dodd and others, is that there's not any one of the Four Corner schools like Utah, Arizona, Arizona State that want to singularly be the one to break up the Pac-12. So do you find truth in that? Do you think that it's kind of they all band together and they all leave at the same time? Is there truth to that thought that not one school really wants to be the one to serve the final blow to the Pac-12?
Well, I think that's their belief, but I think we can all agree that the Pac-12 has, been mortally wounded already. maybe you'd be viewed as the one mercifully finishing them off
Sure.
because this thing's dead. And without a proper media deal supporting their conference, I don't see how they would have survived in any scenario. I think it's more Pac-12 leadership is so timid, and they've made so many bad decisions. They can't make decisions, and they need someone to lean on to help them make the decision. It's been one of the darndest things I've ever seen in my career covering college sports for almost my entire life, is how inept this Pac-12 leadership is. It makes the old Big 12 before Brett Yormark look brilliant. It's just they've been on an island surviving, and now the island is sinking into the ocean.
Tim Fitzgerald, our K-State insider, but we're starting with some conference realignment insight today. I mean, I don't see a path forward for the Pac-12 here. I don't know what that looks like. We saw yesterday the report from several places that the Big Ten would now begin considering the idea of perhaps Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford. We have seen in a variety of places the idea of perhaps Oregon to the Big 12. I believe the report last night from somewhere that Tommy sent me said the Big 12 doesn't want to do anything until it hears from Oregon. Is Oregon even remotely possible, do you think, for the Big 12? I mean, I can't imagine it is if the Big 10 is interested in them, but what do you think Yormark ought to do here with this info?
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? And I think Oregon is worth waiting on. I mean, Washington clearly is thinking they're going to get in the Big Ten, whether it's this year or in a few years, and they just got to struggle through. And Oregon, though, becomes a question mark because it doesn't carry the same academics as the other three schools we mentioned from the Pac-12 North. And there's been a lot of conjecture that USC does not want to be in the same conference with Oregon anymore because of the influence of Phil Knight and how he kind of exerts his power. It is a concern for the Big 12, of course. He might be bringing in a mini Texas that thinks it should get its way all the time. But I'll say this. If Arizona wants to come to the Big 12, they better do it soon because there is a good chance here that Brett Yormark will pause at 14 and say, okay, we're going to just wait now to see what develops because the ACC has some weird things going on with Florida State possibly leading a full-on rebellion against the conference or at least suing to get out of the grant of rights or buying their way out of the grant of rights. And if Florida State goes, that entire ACC gets into very shaky territory because they've been leaning on that grant of rights being so strong. And if it's not that strong, then we could see a lot of other movement. And that might be something Brett Yormark wants to wait on.
Let me ask you about Utah for a second. I'm not sure there's been another school that's been more adversarial against the Big 12 and changes and realignment and all of that than Utah. But now it sounds like, and I'm not exactly sure where all this is coming from, but it sounds like maybe it's more about BYU than it is about the conference entirely. And I know that you wrote a report the other day about Utah apparently not returning the calls from the Big 12. Where do things stand with Utah right now?
Well, I think Utah has been pretty militant and I mean it in that literal sense in their support of the Pac-12. They just weren't, loyal members. They were militant, anti-Big 12. Their fan base was hostile. Extremely hostile on social media. Even their leadership was kind of standoffish, and that report about them not returning calls came from an ESPN member on the SiriusXM college sports channel. But that was also information from Big 12 Media Days, which is now a couple of weeks old in this environment. That's important to note because a lot happens. But I would say I'll be surprised if the Big 12 doesn't make Utah sweat it a little bit. And I've never really seen anything quite like what I've seen from some corners of the Pac-12, just the literal hostility towards fans. And I accept that it's probably rooted in a hatred of BYU, their rival. I don't think any of us can quite understand the level of disdain for each other. There's nothing that KU K-State didn't even come close to it. I don't think KU Missouri comes close to it. That's how bad it is. So I think this has been a lot of ways to kind of hide the fact that they just despise and don't respect BYU in any way. I'm going to be blunt here. I've sensed a lot of religious bigotry, even from fellow Utahns over this whole situation. And they've taken it out on the Big 12 because it's ugly at a level where even they know it's ugly, the hatred for their rival. And so they've just kind of turned their attention to trashing the entire Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, look, Utah would be nice to have. I would love to have that rivalry right in the smack middle of the conference. I'm curious about Arizona State, though. Utah, I get Utah. Arizona State, so the Board of Regents apparently in Arizona today is meeting, and we hear this with everybody, right? Well, you can't, you got to stick together. We got to have Arizona and Arizona State break up, and they were saying that in Oklahoma too, and I'm sure they were saying that in Iowa too at some point, and that conversation would exist and will go nowhere in Oregon and Texas. A&M and Texas broke up. So I think if Arizona's great and Arizona State's not, you can't hold back Arizona. But is Arizona State attractive enough that it doesn't even really matter because the Big 12 should want them both anyway?
Yeah, I think they should be, but I don't know that they are. Let's put this into full context. It's been the Arizona State president who was good friends with Larry Scott, the former commissioner who really put their conference in this situation. They've been full supporters of these failed ideas. There's a lot of irony in the fact that Arizona State leadership in many ways played right into the hand of the destruction of the Pac-12. And for them to get a lifeboat after sinking the ship is filled with irony. But I think the Board of Regents for Arizona wants them to be tied together. But let's keep this in mind. This isn't a situation where one school's being invited, the other isn't. Both schools are being invited. And if one wants to hesitate and not take it, well, that's their decision. They're not being left out. They're choosing to stay out. I don't think that's the case. For everything I'm hearing the last 48 hours, Arizona State finally has realized, okay, this is over. I mean, the TV package is awful. We're hearing, some of our more significant members in Oregon and Washington are going to be gone. We got to get out of here. They probably still have the matches in their pocket as they run out of the burning house, but I think they're going to end up in the Big 12 in a very safe, warm environment, and I think they'll enjoy being in the Big 12 once they do a few laps around the conference.
Fitz, I read a report yesterday that George Kliavkoff had approached NBC multiple times in the last year, as recently as a month ago, looking for some kind of Hail Mary, some kind of savior to, get a linear partner as part of a media rights deal. It didn't happen. If I were him, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think we all can say that we would have done differently than what he has done as leader of the Pac-12. But if I were him, I would have called up the ACC and just been like, can we do something here? Can we come together? Can we merge? The alliance thing that happened last year was a joke, but in some kind of like merger or something, that's obviously probably not going to happen now. But do you think that there was ever a point where that could have been viable?
No, I mean, the ACC's locked into a contract that ESPN doesn't want to, revisit because it's a great business deal for them. You're talking about the two Power 5 conferences with the least amount of per school value. I don't know how they would have saved each other in that way. The bottom line is the Pac-12 put themselves in this position by sitting down at the table from all reports and looking at media partners and saying, we think we're worth $50 million per school, when the market wasn't even to half of that. And you saw Fox get up from the table immediately and walk away. if you sit down with such an outlandish opening bid, you're just going to turn off, possible suitors. And from what I'm hearing is, yeah, NBC finally got there. The Pac-12 just wouldn't compromise. They just thought they were worth so much more than they were being offered. And finally, NBC said, look, we're done negotiating because we're not going to find a number here. And I've just never seen such a poorly executed round of negotiations from a conference that claims to be filled with academic whizzes that they've just so messed this entire thing up. I'm just dumbfounded at how horrendous the leadership was in the Pac-12.
Yeah, academia and the business world, I think, are two very different worlds. Right. Tim Fitzgerald, our K-State insider, and who we've leaned on the hardest during all this conference realignment stuff. We're to this point now. If it's just Arizona, which I don't think seems possible at this point, right? Colorado gives you the odd number. Arizona State and Arizona seem to want to stay together, so that would necessitate the need for another school. Is it a situation where you could add UConn now and wait to see what happens with Oregon? I don't think there's any reason to cap it even at, what would that be, 16? I think you can add more, right? And then just add more later again if the opportunity arises. Like if Oregon wants to come later, who cares how many teams you have? You take Oregon, what's the point in waiting for Oregon and not striking? I mean, the iron could not be hotter than it is right now, Tim.
You need to have the permission of your TV entities, and I think that's what's going on here. They had to get permission to go to 16. They had the green light to go to 14. I don't think anyone's eager to include Oregon in at 15 or 16. So, I think the situation here is that the money has to be there to add these schools. However, UConn is in a situation where, look, they would take a partial share. So if they don't have full blessing of, your TV partners, or Fox in particular, I think they would discount for the partial share at least to start with. Brett Yormark really wants UConn. He really does, and it's entirely possible he might stop at 15 if Utah hesitates and really go back to the board and say, I think we should take UConn to give us the proper balance in the East and West. And, then again, I think the TV partners might say, no, you're going to take the existing P5 if you want the money. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think here before the kickoff of the season, certainly the Big 12 will be at 16 members for starting in 2024.
Fitz, my final question on conference realignment. Obviously, Colorado made the big announcement last week that they're coming back to the Big 12, but kind of reading some different reports that they really kind of seemed like they didn't really want to make the move, but they felt like it was the move that was best for them. Do you get that sense too, that it really wasn't a homecoming of sorts? It was more like, well, this is just kind of the best business thing for us, and I guess we'll do it.
I think you nailed it. I mean, I respect that the Pac-12 did not want to come apart. I mean, I have full respect for that. They wanted to hang on. I think we saw it happen to the Big 12, where they got their back against the wall. And even the schools then had offers. They had potential movement to other conferences, but they hung on to see what was going to happen. So I think it's fair to say you want your conference to survive. I think they just went well beyond that point, and into kind of absurdity at some point with how patient they were waiting on a contract, a media rights deal that just wasn't ever going to arrive.
It's wild. I'm ready for it. I hope. Here's the question I have. I thought if it was Power 5, the TV networks had to take them. Number one, do they not have to take them, or is it just up to 16? And then, this also feels like to me like this is all a moot point, and it's all about 2031.
Yeah, what gets confusing for the Big 12 is they still have 2 more seasons on their old contract. So, the new contract isn't kicking until 25. So anyone you're bringing in for 24 has to be approved by the current, contract. And part of one of their earlier deals was they removed the escalators from the contract. So now they have to get permission. I think what makes this all palatable to ESPN in particular is it frees them up from any idea that they need to sign a contract with the Pac-12. I think once Colorado made the move and it became clear that one way or another the Big 12 would have inventory time zones for ESPN to show late night games, the Pac-12 was really doomed, and that's what we've been saying. All of a sudden, all ESPN wanted from the Pac-12 was that late night slot. If someone else can provide it, which the Big 12 will be able to, they were done. So I think they're interested in actually saving money by bringing in teams into the Big 12 as opposed to trying to pay the Pac-12, whatever millions per year just for one late night game.
Well, Fitz, we're inching closer and closer to the start of the college football season. Of course, K-State getting ramped up, getting ready to go. I know that you've been following that closely over the last few weeks. What's new in that world? What are we looking at here as we're getting we're only 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks or so away from the start of the college football season? Yeah.
I don't have any idea what happened to July. We just celebrated July 4th, and now it's August 3rd. The summer has been so fast, and I think a big part of it is all this expansion realignment stuff. But K-State camp's open. We haven't heard much out of it. We have had no access. We will here at the top of the hour. I'll be heading over to the indoor complex, the new one, to have a media opportunity to watch a little bit of football practice. So I'm interested to go see that. That's why I'm going earlier today. And so it's here. I mean, as soon as fall camp hits, it's football season to me, although I'm going to sneak off for vacation next week. But it's incredible how quickly this has come up, and I think this is going to be a really entertaining year of Big 12 football. Folks, if we thought it was unpredictable before, let's just throw 4 new schools into the mix, also playing Oklahoma and Texas, and see where we end up. I think this could be utter chaos in 2023 of Big 12 football.
It will be. Of course it will be. K-State's in a good position, though. Open practice, open practice, is this the best look you're going to get today? What is that, starting about 20 minutes?
Yeah, we're supposed to be up there at 10:10. We get to see very little other than some position drills and stretching, but you kind of see who's out there, who looks healthy, who looks the role. You just pick up little stuff. These aren't really educational that much, but boy, it kind of gets you into the mode. I mean, it makes it real tangible that football season's here when you're watching the guys out there practicing. So it's just a good opportunity, and eventually we have opportunities to talk to coaches after practice and those type of things, and we'll start getting a lot more detail and paint a better picture for our subscribers. And by the way, we're having a 75% off sale right now across the network. So if you're a KU fan, you can head on over to fog.net. K-State fans to go PowerCat, and there's a site for every school, basically every P5 school. So 75% off, but that ends today. Another sale will start in tomorrow, but this is the best one.
All right, well, go check that out at gopowercat.com. The next time we talk, things could be very different, Fitz. This is sort of what we've been waiting for. Buckle up and enjoy practice today. Hopefully it's not 1 billion degrees up there, too.
Well, we'll be in the air conditioning, so that's good because I like air conditioning because I'm fat and old. And I hope they don't ask me to actually practice because this could be a problem. I could hurt some guys.
They are, we have a lot of questions at the wide receiver position. Fitz out of the slot. We could see it.
This explosive speed has never been a phrase used to describe Tim Fitzgerald.
Uses his body to get position, and how are your hands? I think you'll be all right.
Yes, I use my body in a falling position. My hands are really good at breaking my fall. So there you go.
There you go. All right. Tim Fitzgerald, gopowercat.com, at Life of Fitz on social media. Fitz, you're on Twitch today for the first time. So hello to all our Twitch followers.
I had no idea I was twitching. So hi, everyone. Hi.
You're getting twitchy with it. Oh, God, that sounds
I'm waving.
old. That was brutal.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Hey, I got to go
Fitz.
now. I can't be on with you guys anymore.
Ugh. I'm going to go put myself in a mandatory timeout for that.
That was bad.
That was awful. All right, see you, Fitz. Okay, we're far from done here, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to pivot a little bit. Chelsea Messenger. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had Chelsea on, so we'll talk a little betting with her. We're getting closer to the preseason. We'll check out the futures market a little bit. We'll check out Major League Baseball now, post-trade deadline, see if there's anything out there in that world. That's what we'll have next for you. Sports Daily, it's all Brockton Caster. We are getting twitchy with it.
No.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Brought to you by IHOP, celebrating their 65th anniversary with $5 all-you-can-eat pancakes.
The U.S. women's soccer team taking on the world, and you can take home bonus bets every time they win with FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of KFH. Because right now, new customers get $100 in bonus bets, guaranteed, plus another $10 in bonus bets every time Team USA wins. The promo code is my name, Ted, T-E-D. Go to FanDuel.com/Ted and sign up between now and August 3rd. And then place your first $5 bet to unlock your bonus bets. Don't miss your chance to get $10 in bonus bets for every Team USA win, plus $100 in bonus bets guaranteed. Go to FanDuel.com/Ted. Sign up today. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.